says, "Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered to him." The angels do not appear during the temptation. They don't interrupt the struggle. They arrive after it is over. Which raises a question many of us have asked in our own wilderness seasons. Why does God's help sometimes come after the hardest moment has already passed? I'm Brent, and this is episode 81 of the Bible Unplugged. We are coming to the final moment in our Love in the Wilderness series. Over the past few episodes, we've watched the story unfold step by step. First, led. The Spirit leads Jesus into the wilderness. Second, hungry. Jesus refuses to turn stones into bread. Third, identity. Jesus refuses to test God from the temple. Fourth, authority. Jesus refuses the kingdoms of the world offered without the cross. Each temptation offered the same basic shortcut: power without obedience, rule without trust, glory without surrender. Jesus refuses them all. And then, when the struggle is finished, Matthew records something very simple. Angels came and ministered to him. And that small sentence reveals something profound about the way God provides for his people. Matthew's description is brief, but the wording is significant. The Greek word translated ministered means to serve, to provide, to care for someone's physical needs. The same word is used later in the New Testament for people who serve meals. It's the word deacon, which means the picture here is remarkably ordinary. After 40 days of fasting, the Son of God is fed, strengthened, cared for. The help of heaven arrives not as spectacle, but as care. But this moment echoes another wilderness story from the Old Testament. In the book of 1 Kings chapter 19, the prophet Elijah collapses in the desert. He is exhausted and afraid. He is certain his mission has failed. He lies down under a tree, asks God to let him die, and then falls asleep from exhaustion. But instead, an angel wakes him up. "Get up and eat." Next to him is bread baked on hot stones in a jar of water. Elijah eats and sleeps. Then the angel returns again. "Get up and eat, because the journey is too much for you." And after that meal, Elijah travels 40 days to Mount Horeb. The parallels are striking. Elijah in the wilderness, Jesus in the wilderness. Elijah fed by an angel, Jesus served by angels. Elijah receives food before his 40-day journey. Jesus receives food after his 40-day fast. The prophet is strengthened for the wilderness. The Son is sustained through it. In both cases, provision comes after the collapse or after the resistance, not before. The book of Psalms chapter 34 verse 7 gives us another layer. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them. Notice the imagery. The angel encamps, which means the protection of heaven is not always visible during the battle, but it surrounds the people of God while the battle unfolds. Sometimes the care of God becomes visible only after the struggle ends. This timing is important because most of us imagine God's provision differently. We assume help should come before the hardship, remove the hunger, stop the temptation, end the wilderness early. But Scripture shows a different pattern. The test comes first, truth is revealed, and then provision follows. Abraham climbs the mountain before the ram appears. Elijah collapses in the desert before the angel feeds him. Jesus resists the enemy before the angels arrive. The wilderness forms something in us that comfort cannot: trust, alignment, and clarity. The wilderness reveals what we truly believe, and once the moment passes, heaven often moves in quietly. Provision after trust, care after obedience, strength after resistance. To understand the deeper meaning of this moment, we have to step back and see the larger story, a story we have built on over the last several episodes. Adam was called a son of God in the book of Genesis. Israel was called God's firstborn son in the book of Exodus. Both sons faced temptation. Both sons struggled to trust God's provision. Adam grasped, Israel tested. But Jesus stands in the wilderness and does something different. He trusts. And because he succeeds where the earlier sons failed, something significant happens. The victory of the Son becomes the inheritance of those who belong to him, which means the angels ministering to Jesus are not just caring for him, they are signaling something larger. The wilderness has been overcome. There is another subtle echo in this story. In the Garden of Eden, after Adam and Eve fall, they are driven out of the garden. Genesis says that cherubim guard the entrance. Humanity is separated from the place of life. But here in the wilderness, something different happens. The faithful Son stands where Adam failed, and instead of angels blocking the way, angels come near, not as guards, but as servants. The story is quietly telling us something. The obedience of Jesus begins to reopen what was lost in Eden. But the story doesn't end in the wilderness. The Bible quietly traces a pattern through 3 sacred landscapes. The first garden is Eden. That is where the first son, Adam, faces temptation and fails. Because of that failure, humanity is driven out, and the angels stand guard at the gate. The second garden is the wilderness. Here the faithful son faces temptation again, but this time the son trusts the Father. And when the struggle ends, the angels do not block the way. They come and serve him. Then there is a third garden. It appears at the end of the gospel story. Early on a Sunday morning, women come to a tomb in a garden and find the stone rolled away. And inside the empty tomb, they encounter 2 angels. But this time, the angels are not guarding anything. They are announcing something. He is not here. He has risen. The story that began with humanity being driven out of the garden ends with heaven announcing that the way back to life has been opened once again. There is a moment many people recognize when they look back on difficult seasons of their lives. During the struggle, it felt like God was silent. The prayer seemed unanswered. The strength seemed gone. The wilderness felt endless. But later, sometimes much later, you notice something you could not see at the time. You were sustained, not dramatically, not visibly, but somehow you were given just enough strength to keep going. Looking back, you realize something surprising. The angels of God may have been closer than you knew. We're going to pause for a moment and turn this story into a short prayer that you can carry with you through the week. I'll say a simple 2-phrase prayer designed to match your breathing rhythm. Let the words settle slowly. Let's begin. God provides right on time. 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 Take that prayer with you this week, especially in moments when it feels like the help of heaven is late. One of the quiet lessons of the wilderness is learning to trust God's timing. Provision is not always early, but it is often precise. The care of God may arrive later than we hoped, but never later than we need. This week, pay attention to the quiet ways God provides. Provision often looks ordinary. You may experience strength you didn't have yesterday, and you have peace that settles unexpectedly. A conversation, a moment of rest. The help of heaven rarely announces itself loudly, but it is often perfectly timed. The wilderness story ends quietly. The devil leaves, the struggle ends, and heaven draws near. Angels bring care to the exhausted Son of God. But the deeper meaning of this moment reaches far beyond the desert, because the Son who trusted in the wilderness would later face another wilderness moment, at the cross. And once again, the voices would return. If you are the Son of God, save yourself. But the Son who trusted the Father in the wilderness would trust him there as well. And as you know, the music in the background means my time is up for this episode. If this has been helpful, share it with someone who may be walking through a wilderness season of their own. And if you would like a quiet voice of reflection during the week, my daily podcast, Still Here, offers short reflections and prayer to help you begin the day grounded in God's presence. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts or at powerloveandmiracles.com. My prayer for you is that you will stand steady in the wilderness seasons of your life. Trust the God who sees every moment of the struggle. Refuse the shortcuts that promise power without obedience. And when the battle finally passes, receive the quiet care of heaven, because the one who trusted the Father in the wilderness now reigns over every wilderness you will ever face. Have a blessed week. Just to let you know, all opinions are my own. If you agree, keep listening. And if you don't, keep listening. You might find something you like. All Bible quotations come from the World English Bible, which is a public domain work. Our show theme song is Awesome Call by Kevin MacLeod and used under Creative Commons license. The content of this podcast is copyrighted 2026 by J. Brent Eaton, and this has been a Power, Love, and Miracles production.